Hello and welcome viewers. Let's dive straight into the top stories this hour on Superfast 50. In an unprecedented day in Sri Lanka, in a surprise twist, the Prime Minister of the country, Ranil Wickremesinghe, has resigned in order to make way, he says, for an all-party government. Wickremesinghe, who had taken over the PM's position at the request of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to tide over the economic crisis there, resigned on a day that Gotabaya himself was forced to flee as thousands of protesters protested outside his official residence, eventually storming into it. Amid the crippling economic and political crisis in Sri Lanka, thousands of protesters descended to the streets in the capital Colombo, demanding the resignation of Sri Lanka's President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who was forced to flee before the protesters stormed the presidential residence and secretariat. Angry Sri Lankan protesters barged into the official residence of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in Colombo. Visuals that emerged showed the protesters diving into the lavish swimming pool and then helping themselves in the kitchens and the bedrooms of the residence, even as lorryfuls of protesters continued to pile into Colombo. As a sea of protesters stormed Sri Lanka President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence, a government spokesperson, Mohana Samaranayake, said that there was no information about Rajapaksa's whereabouts. Meanwhile, cricketing legend Sanath Jayasuriya shared photos of himself at the protests, calling Gotabaya a failed leader and asking him to go peacefully. The Central Bureau of Investigation conducted searches at the premises of Kapil Vadhavan in Mumbai and at Dewan Villa in Mahabaleshwar. During the investigation, it was found that the DHFL promoters had allegedly diverted the funds and made investments in various entities. Following the CBI raids at the Vadhavan's residences and properties in Mumbai and in Mahabaleshwar, a large number of high-value paintings, luxury items and sculptures were recovered. Republic has accessed super-exclusive pictures of 35 seized luxury items, including watches and artworks. In Delhi, Bharatiya Janata Party President JP Nadda held a meeting with the visiting newly appointed Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis on the cabinet expansion and the formula for dividing cabinet berths between the BJP and the SHIVSENA. The Director General of the CRPF informed that post the non-stop rescue work after the flash flood that claimed at least 16 lives, the Amarnath Yatra will resume and that the services that have been halted will become operational from tomorrow.
14 dead bodies or 8 critically injured people.
सर चैलेंजेस क्या है? क्रिटिकल इंजर्ड है क्या? उनको वहां से एयरलिफ्ट करके
एयरलिफ्ट करके
कहां लेके
श्रीनगर ले जाया जा चुका है उनको.
Kuldeep Singh, Director General of the CRPF, also informed that the people who are critically injured shall be airlifted to Srinagar. The search for the missing persons continues meanwhile. As rescue operations are still underway to evacuate the stranded pilgrims from the Amarnath flash flood site, Jammu and Kashmir's Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha paid a visit to the injured people admitted at the Sher-e-Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences in Srinagar and spoke to them.
पंचतरणी का जो इलाका है वो लगभग 6 किलोमीटर के आसपास का है. वहाँ लोगों को सुरक्षित नीचे लाया गया है. पंचतरणी में मैं बताना चाहूँगा लगभग हम लोगों ने अगर फिगर जोड़ते हैं तो लगभग 15,000 लोगों को हम लोग लेकर के आए हैं सेफली. वो सेफ हैं, साउंड है.
कि जो अमरनाथ जी यात्रा में जो एक दर्दनाक वाक़ा हुआ है वो हम सब के लिए बहुत दुख का वाक़ा है और हम उम्मीद करेंगे, जैसे यशवंत सिन्हा जी ने कहा, कि सरकार इसके ऊपर कमीशन बिठाएगी. ये क्यों हुआ, कैसे हुआ, कैसे वहाँ टेंट लगाए गए थे, खतरनाक इलाका है और साफ चीज़ें लोगों के सामने लाएंगे.
काफ़ी बचाव कार्य वहाँ पर जारी है. आज सुबह होने के बाद भी वहाँ पर मौसम खराब है. रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन किया जा रहा है. 15 लोगों की जान चली गई है और 40 के लगभग जो लापता हैं उनके बारे में जानकारी दी गई है. लेकिन उम्मीद करनी चाहिए कि जिस प्रकार से हमारे SDRF, NDRF, BSF, आर्मी के जवान बड़े देवदूत की तरह वहाँ पर काम कर रहे हैं और विपरीत परिस्थितियों में काम कर रहे हैं।
देखिए सर, अभी तक जो कल के हादसे के बाद हमें जो इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली थी, हम आज सुबह से हम स्टैंड बाय पर थे और फर्स्ट लाइट पर हमें यहाँ पर टेक ऑफ का हमें प्रिपरेशन मिल गया था। तो जैसे ही हमें आदेश मिला गया, हम यहाँ पर अर्ली मॉर्निंग टेक ऑफ किए और 8 कैजुअलिटीज़ जो हुई थी वो हम लेकर आए हैं सर, और कुछ बाकी जो कैजुअलिटीज़ थी सर वो एयरफोर्स लेकर आया है। और अभी हमें नेक्स्ट आदेश मिला हुआ है कि अभी कुछ देर बाद दोबारा फिर टेक ऑफ हो सकता है यहाँ पर। तो हम आज सुबह 5 बजे से हम यहाँ पर स्टैंड बाय पर बैठे हुए हैं सिर्फ इसी चीज़ के लिए। हमारे सीनियर अधिकारियों ने जब हमें बताया गया कि जो ऐसे कल शाम को हादसा हुआ है, तो हम उस टाइम से इस जहाज़ की तैयारी करने में लगे हुए थे।
सब लोग हैं ना,
12 लोग बजेगा सब लोग यहाँ।
मैं बात करता हूँ इन सबके नाम और मुझे ये कौन से कैंप में हैं आप लोग?
आज में 4 दिन यहाँ पहुँच गए थे, रेस्क्यू में आ गए थे। देखिए पलटर नहीं छोड़ा उन्हें, सामान वामान बह गया तो हमारा बह गया था अपना।
अच्छा चलो कोई बात नहीं, अभी वहाँ कैंप में आ गए हैं ना आप लोग?
हेलो,
आप लोग कैंप में आ गए हैं ना?
For information, 5 people were rescued alive at the very beginning when the disaster struck. 16 casualties have been confirmed, and about 40 people still seem to be missing. Though we hope that with the kind of deployment, the best resources that the country can place at the disposal of the citizens in such a situation would help in rescuing more and more people alive from that situation.
Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy has been elected president for lifetime of the YSRCP. The process was completed on the concluding day of the YSRCP's 2-day plenary meeting in Amaravati. Samajwadi Party patriarch Mulayam Singh Yadav's wife Sadhna Gupta has passed away. She was undergoing treatment at a private hospital in Gurugram for a lung infection. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath condoled Gupta's demise. The Vishwa Hindu Parishad today took out a Sankalp march to protest against the recent Hindu killings across the country. Waving the tricolour and chanting Jai Shri Ram, sadhus also participated in the march against the attacks on the community's members. The Central Bureau of Investigation raided the residence of Congress Member of Parliament Karti Chidambaram, the son of former Union Minister P. Chidambaram. The raid was in continuance of the earlier searches that could not be completed at the time because a cupboard belonging to Karti Chidambaram's wife was sealed while she was away, but now she has returned and the CBI returned to complete those searches. Ahead of the assembly elections in Rajasthan scheduled for next year, the Bharatiya Janata Party will hold a 3-day training camp in the state from July the 10th to July the 12th. The meeting will be held in Rajasthan's Mount Abu. External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar visited the Japanese embassy in India to convey his condolences to Ambassador Satoshi Suzuki on the assassination of former Prime Minister of Japan Shinzo Abe yesterday. Maharashtra's Chief Minister Eknath Shinde launched salvos at his predecessor Uddhav Thackeray by stating that his faction is the real SHIVSENA and has been recognized as so by the Speaker of the state's Legislative Assembly. After the decision of shifting the metro car shed for the Metro 3 project in Mumbai back to the RA colony, Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has stated that work on the Mumbai to Ahmedabad bullet train corridor will also commence very soon. A 23-year-old alleged miscreant was killed while 3 of his associates were arrested in an encounter in the Usmanpur area of the national capital. The deceased has been identified as Akash. The police said that an encounter broke out between the police and the miscreants in which Akash died and 3 others were arrested. The Jammu and Kashmir police, along with the Indian Army, arrested a hybrid terrorist associate of terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba in Jammu and Kashmir's Baramulla district. The terrorist was identified as Muhammad Iqbal Bhatt and was nabbed at a checkpoint in the Cree area of Baramulla district. Tributes poured in for the Indian Army Jawan Naik Jasveer Singh, who was martyred in the Garang Nar area while fighting terrorists who had infiltrated across the border from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. He succumbed to multiple gunshot wounds following an ambush. A fire broke out in one of the compartments of a passenger train in Punjab's Ludhiana this morning. No casualties were reported or have been reported so far. The fire was brought under control by the promptness of the police and the Railway Protection Force. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a natural farming conclave to be held in Gujarat's Surat via video conferencing. The conclave will also be attended by the Gujarat Governor as well as Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel. The Prime Minister's office informed that he will also be visiting the state of Jharkhand. In his visit to Jharkhand, the Prime Minister will be inaugurating the much-awaited Devgarh Airport. He will also lay the foundation stone for various development projects worth more than a total of 16,000 crore rupees. Amid heavy rainfall in several parts of Maharashtra, people in the NANDED district were reeling from flood-like situations due to the heavy downpour in the region. A number of bridges have also come underwater due to the deluge. Rajasthan has witnessed heavy rainfall at isolated places in the last 24 hours. The meteorological department informed that Bhilwara recorded the maximum rainfall. The Met department has predicted heavy to very heavy rainfall in the next 24 hours in the state as well. In the wake of incessant rains in Telangana, Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao has instructed his Chief Secretary Somesh Kumar to alert all the departments concerned and take quick safety audits. He asked the Chief Secretary to hold video conferences with district collectors and to alert the NDRF and the rescue teams in the flood-prone areas. The Chief Minister of Telangana appealed to the people to stop taking any risks during the heavy rains. He urged the people to not venture out of their homes unless there was an emergency and also to take self-precautions. The Indian Meteorological Department has forecast the possibility of heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places in the financial capital Mumbai. The IMD also predicted the possibility of gusty winds reaching 40 to 50 kilometers per hour in the coastal city. IMD had issued a red alert in Mumbai and has maintained it for the next 24 hours. In the wake of heavy rains lashing the key pilgrimage areas of Uttarakhand like Sonprayag, and the Rudraprayag district administration, keeping in view the safety of the pilgrims, has made a decision of halting the Kedarnath Yatra for the time being. A 4-story building collapsed in Himachal Pradesh's Chopal due to heavy rains. The local administration said that the residents of the building had been informed and had been made to vacate the building beforehand. In central Assam's Nagaon district, the road connectivity between Kanpur and Katiatoli has now totally stopped after the flood waters had washed away portions of roads and bridges at the Kanpur area. The locals have used bamboo walking bridges to cross rivers in the area. Twitter will file a lawsuit against American billionaire and entrepreneur and the world's wealthiest person, Elon Musk, to force him to buy the social media company on the agreed terms. Brett Taylor, who is Twitter's board chair, said that the Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the decided price, that is $44 billion, and terms and pursue legal action, or rather will pursue legal action to enforce the acquisition. Afghans across the country marked the first day of Eid al-Adha festival, offering prayers at mosques. Hundreds of Kabul residents poured into mosques and attended the Eid prayers in large groups. Moscow has claimed that Russian forces have destroyed a hangar housing US howitzer guns being used by the Ukrainian military. Defense Ministry spokesperson Igor Konashenkov said that Russia had targeted the facility near the town of Chashiv Yar, also killing up to 30 Ukrainian personnel in the process. Many protesters gathered outside a New Orleans courthouse where the judge heard arguments on the state's anti-abortion trigger laws. This is a day after US President Joe Biden signed an executive order to attempt to protect abortion rights in light of the US Supreme Court overturning the Roe v. Wade verdict. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that China's support for Russia's war in Ukraine is complicating US-China relations at a time when they are already beset by rifts and enmity over numerous other issues. people continued to leave Ukraine's Donetsk region as Russia continued shelling residential areas with heavy artillery, Ukraine says. Ukraine's presidential office informed that at least 12 civilians were killed and another 30 were wounded by Russian shelling over the last 24 hours. The assassination of former Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe ahead of the parliamentary election this weekend has shocked the nation and has raised questions over whether security for him had been adequate. The Nara Prefecture Police has come under intense scrutiny as local media fired questions over Abe's security. After beating Denmark's women's team in Euro 2022, the German team is set to meet Spain in the next Group B game on Tuesday. The Germans dominated the Danes, running riot in a 4-0 win. After the conclusion of the limited over series against the West Indies, Team India will be touring Zimbabwe for a 3-match ODI series this August. After that, it's the Asia Cup. After finishing third in Pool B, the Indian women's hockey team will take on host Spain in the FIH Women's Hockey World Cup crossover match for a place in the quarterfinal tomorrow in Terrassa in Spain. The women's singles tournament at Wimbledon 2022 will be coming to a close with a very interesting matchup between Kazakhstan's Elina Rybakina taking on Ons Jabeur of Tunisia. The winner of this contest will lift the prestigious Venus Rosewater dish for the very first time in their respective careers. Novak Djokovic has reached the Wimbledon final yet again after defeating Cameron Norrie this time in 4 sets in the semi-finals. Although 9th-seeded Cameron Norrie shocked the defending champion by taking the first set 6-2, Djokovic took advantage of an increasing number of unforced errors from Norrie, taking the next 3 sets back-to-back 6-3, 6-2, 6-4.